The following production is brought to you by the Talkin' Buds Leaf Show.
Talkin' Buds Leaf Show playoff post-game edition. Leafs win edition. A 3-2 victory over the Boston Bruins. This game was an emotional roller coaster. There were moments in this game where you and I were ready to just absolutely take my television off the wall and throw it out in the street. There were moments in this game where we were fist pumping. There were moments in this game where we were screaming at officials, screaming at Bruins players, screaming at Leaf players for taking penalties. But at the end of the day, what we and what everyone else said that this team needed ended up happening, with Auston Matthews getting the game-winning goal, John Tavares getting a goal, Max Domi getting a goal, tack on 2 assists for Matthews as well. Just a big night all the way around from the Leafs' best player.
Yep. And they finally got that third goal in a playoff game that they've been waiting for 8 straight of them. And it came off the stick of their best player. And when he had that opportunity, man, that guy had to put it in the net, and he did. And that's what they needed.
So the takeaway from this, when it comes to okay, they got the win. What did they do right? Well, I want to start first and foremost with the fourth line. I thought the fourth line was excellent tonight, and from start to finish, established an aggressive forecheck, dumping it in, going and getting it. I take my hat off to all 3 of those guys, and that sort of energy, I think, permeated through the team. Because when this game started, the Bruins score, Max Domi gets it right back, and you're like, okay, we're back in this. And he saves Jake McCabe after Jake McCabe takes a dumb penalty early in this game. We're going to talk about that later, too. And you're like, okay, good. Then at the end of the first period, David Pastrnak is left wide open, and they hammer it in and give up a goal towards the end of a period, something they did all year, and you're feeling like, oh, shit. Like, they're going to let this slip away again. But they hung in there, and I think I mentioned the fourth line. I feel like the fourth line's energy and the way they played permeated through the rest of the team. And as the game went on, you saw Auston Matthews get a little better. You saw John Tavares get a little better. You saw Ilya Samsonov get a little better. And the result's a 3-2 win.
Yeah, they just started skating. And then, the recipe for playoff success for this team just happened right in front of our eyes. It's big players scoring big goals when they have to, and Ilya Samsonov making big saves when he had to as well. And that's really what the difference was in the game. And you're watching that team. Before last episode, I said to you that they can beat this team. And then they lost that game. And then leading into that episode, you asked me, you were going to ask me that question right off the top, to be like, why do you think they can beat them? And then I was at a loss for words. I was like, this sounds so stupid, me coming on here and coming up with this lame excuse of why they can beat this hockey team. And then they go out and pretty much outplay them for 2 periods. And now I'm kind of back in that camp of this team can be beat. They're a damn good hockey team. They're a well-coached hockey team. They're so good at getting pucks to the net. They're so good at covering guys in front of their own net. They're so good at getting sticks in the lane. But I think it's just comparing them to what they looked like with the Big Z Bruins and with Bergeron and Krejci. It's really not the same team, and it's a different dynamic.
They're not nearly as deep. I said to you when we were watching the game just now that I think the Lightning team they beat last year is far better than this Bruins team.
They're a damn good team. I don't want to make it sound like I don't think they're a good team. They're a damn good hockey team. Don't get me wrong. They do all the little things right. But compared to what used to be the big, bad Bruins, I think they're just a little bit less than that. They still play great hockey. They still do great things, but they just seem they're just a little worse version of what they used to be.
Yes, 100%.
I think that's what I'm trying to get at.
I think it's so important. I want to come back to Auston Matthews for a second. For him to get that goal, because the narrative, we don't need to go over it again. We all know the narrative about the best players in big games and big moments in the playoffs. And for it to be him on a beauty breakaway goal that it ends up being the winning goal, it's just, I really hope that whatever monkey he's been carrying around on his back, he can kind of get off now, and I hope he's able to parlay this, because as I said earlier, I thought he got better as the game went on. I think when it started, he still looked a little deer in the headlights, in my personal opinion, but he got better as the game went on. I really hope that as they come back to Toronto for Game 3, that he's able to just, you got the big goal, you put the team on your back and help them get a playoff win. You're right. They got that elusive third playoff goal that they haven't gotten in how many, 8 games?
8 straight games.
So it's just like, I really, really hope that this is a way for him to sort of push forward and take games over as we go along here.
Yeah, you look at that stat of them not getting more than 2 goals in 8 straight games. And we've come on here constantly and talked about goaltending and defense and how that's a problem. But they throw that stat up on the broadcast, and it's like, you know what? You're paying a lot of forwards a lot of money to score goals for you. And that's honestly been their biggest problem. I think if you really look at it, over the past couple seasons, yeah, their defense has sucked. Yeah, their goaltending's been whatever, but when you don't score goals in the playoffs, like, you're not going to win. If you don't capitalize on power play opportunities, you're not going to win. And like, that's what I find so funny about analyzing this team. It's just like, at the end of the day, it's like they just don't score. And then tonight when Matthews, that was a very creative goal as well to get him open, because there's not a lot of open ice out there. We know they struggle to create opportunities in the tight space. That's the playoffs. For Domi to flip that puck up and to him just like pick it up and throw it down and just instantly get away from the defender and score that goal in a breakaway. Like, that was an extremely creative goal by Domi and Matthews.
John Tavares too. You said, I think it was 2-3 episodes ago, you're like, the thing that he's still got going for him at this point in his career is when he can get a chance to just throw it on net in the offensive zone, he can still score a goal.
Yeah, he can still rip it. Yeah, he can still rip it, and he did.
Yeah, that's exactly what he did tonight. Actually, Johnny's wheels have never been his greatest strength, and this year in particular, I think he's really fallen behind even more in that sense. But I liked his game tonight. He was involved physically. We're gonna talk about his line mate a little later on. Mitch Marner was. I have never seen vitriol on Leafs Twitter quite like what Mitch Marner received tonight. But I liked Tavares and I liked Nyes on that line, and just.
Nyes is just a human punch.
Yeah, he's just a human pinball, man.
Yeah,
he's just out there
hit all over the place, but
he's
getting up and he's still skating. Yeah, he's just getting rocked all over the place.
So we talked about how we don't think this Bruins team is the same team that they were back in the days of the big bad Bruins when they were going to Cup finals. And you said the Leafs can beat this team. I think after watching what we saw tonight, I agree with you. However, the Leafs cannot beat themselves. There needs to be a regroup in that dressing room of stop taking the bait. This could have been potentially a 3-1 hockey game tonight if Jake McCabe doesn't take that stupid penalty in the first period. Ilya Lyubushkin throws a completely unnecessary spaz in the third period on Charlie Coyle. And it's like, dude, like, what are you doing? Tyler Bertuzzi hacks Brad Marchand. Brad Marchand sold it, but that's exactly what I mean when it's like taking the bait. Do not give this team the margin for error for the Leafs is so small. We talked all last episode about the lack of talent on the defensive zone and just how much they struggle to get the puck out of their own end. Just make it simple. Quick pass and out. Stop fiddling around with it. Stop passing it backwards. Just a nice, clean pass. Get it to the forwards and get it out of the zone. When there's a Bruins player in front of the net, if he says something to you, skate away. Skate away. They've come in with this idea that, like, we're not going to get pushed around. And I love it because they've been pushed around before, and there's nothing more infuriating than watching them get pushed around. However, the Bruins have game planned for this. So they're trying to goad you into retaliation penalties all night long. Skate away. You made the comment that after McCabe took that penalty, his ears would be ringing for the rest of the night if you were behind the bench because you'd be screaming at him.
I would be losing it.
Yeah, it's like that's and then Lyubushkin, like Lyubushkin is like incensed going at Charlie Coyle, and it's like, use your head, man. Like, use your head. Like, don't give these guys the opportunity to score there. And then they have to kill off the penalty at the end of the game. We're all holding on for dear life. Could have totally been avoided. Just keep your composure.
Even Bertuzzi, like, I know he's trying to get Marchand there with that slash, but it's like, it's just so funny how we just constantly criticize them for not being tough enough. And then they like go out there, try their best to like push around and get involved. But then it's just like they just can't figure it out. It's the wrong place at the wrong time, the wrong move in the wrong situation. There's times to be tough. There's times to fight back. But the biggest surprise for me in this series so far is how much of a non-factor like the dirtiness and the physicality is from the Boston Bruins. Like, yes, they're finishing body checks. Yes, they're like Matt Nyes got plastered like 3 or 4 times tonight, but there's not a lot of funny business going on.
No.
There's some scrums, but it's not like what it was last year when Sam Bennett was just having fun with the whole Leafs roster. It's like Marchand has been a non-factor in this series.
Except for when he's goading guys.
Yeah, except for when he's
penalties.
diving. But like other than that, he hasn't really done anything. He hasn't burned them too bad. He hasn't been too big of a shit disturber. It's now they have to. We know that you can stick up for yourself now, and I'm happy that you're willing to prove that. It's just now you have to be smart enough to know when to do it. Because that penalty that McCabe took, it's like, come on, man. Like, what's wrong with just taking the guy and just kind of giving him a shove out of there? And it sounds ridiculous because the amount of times we've been on this podcast being like, push him back.
Yeah, but I think
Get
it's
him.
But I think
stand up for yourself.
But I think it's
and then they stand up for themselves and don't let guys slash your goalie. And yet here we are criticizing them for taking action for people slashing their goalie.
You're the one that's clipping the audio today, not me. I think you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But I think it's what changes this in this scenario is this is part of the Bruins game plan. They're trying to goad you into taking penalties. They're trying to sucker you into it. And you're falling into their trap. Like, just don't do it. They're trying to capitalize on the emotion. They know the Leafs are wound tight. They all know it. They're trying to get them to take the bait. And they have taken the bait quite a few times. So it's not like, oh, don't be tough. Don't stand up for yourself. It's like you saw Bertuzzi should not have slashed Marchand there. He shouldn't have. But you see the way he sells it, and he gets a penalty.
Yeah.
Like this. We talked game 1. He's just standing there. Max Domi's hitting him in the back of the head. Marchand's not even looking at him. Like, this is a part of their game plan. Be better than that. Rise above it. Don't get sucked into it.
Yeah, it's just funny.
No, it is. It is hilarious.
It's just hilarious how I'm just criticizing a guy for taking action for doing something in front of their own net. But you're watching it. It's like, yeah, like good for you, but you got to know the situation. This Boston Bruins team, even though I've said they aren't as good as they used to be, but like this team is so good at taking advantage of situations, of capitalizing on power play opportunities. And like, you just can't, they're so sound. They're so well coached, as you've alluded to.
That's what I mean when I say the margin for error is
yeah,
so
it's
small.
just you really it's game 1. I'll give you a pass. You're riled up. You wanted to establish yourself. It didn't go the way you wanted it to go. But just sit back, think about game 1. Now think about game 2, and just be like, okay, we are not getting pushed around. I don't think they even have the ability to push us around. No. You look up and down that roster. Who scares you on that roster? Pat Maroon can't even move laterally anymore. Like, there's nobody on that roster who's scaring you physically. There's no Chara out there who's going to beat anybody's brains in whenever he feels like it. It's a different team. And now, after 2 games, watch the film and know when to take your shots and when to not take your shots. Don't just cross-check a guy because you're trying to prove that you're tough. Like, just, it's not the time.
Okay. Few things I want to talk about. We're going to be a short one here. Post-game shows are never as long as usual episodes. Plus, it's late. We both got to work tomorrow. So, I think the Boston Bruins have really opened themselves up to some conversation now with the decision to start Linus Ullmark. I understand that it's what they did all year, and the guy won the Vezina last year, so it's not like you're just putting some plug in there. But it's a storyline that they've created, especially after Swayman was so good in game 1, that I don't think they needed to create. And it's going to be a huge, I bet you tune into Boston sports radio tomorrow and it'll be, why did they start Allmark and not go with Swayman?
Yeah, it was a risk. I don't think it necessarily was a bad decision because those are two damn good goalies. And they've been rotating them all year. They decided they were going to rotate them. That's fine. But I think as an organization, as a coaching staff, you kind of have to think about, I know you got to have ultimate confidence in your team, but if it doesn't go right, you are going to open yourself up to criticism. And yeah, it backfired on them. I mean, not that Allmark was the reason why they lost. Like when the best goal scorer in the NHL is all alone on you, like there's only so much you can do. It's just there's just no other way to say it other than they've kind of opened themselves up to criticism here by making that decision. Whether it was the right decision or the wrong decision, I don't think it was the wrong decision, but that's just the way pro sports works. It's like you make a decision like that, and if it doesn't work out, you're going to hear about it.
Yeah, that's part of the game. Speaking of creating discussion points, William Nylander doesn't play again for Game 2. He's on the ice today. The Leafs are just not revealing anything about what's going on with him. This has led to like crazy speculation online about some people think that it's a disciplinary thing. There were videos circulating of him today. It clearly looks like he's dealing with some sort of back or neck situation. I do not think. Can we just get this out of the way? Can I just go on a rant today? I say this a lot. I'm the one out of the two of us who spends all the time on Leafs social media. I'm on Reddit. I'm on Twitter. I'm looking at everybody's opinion. I enjoy engaging with it. Folks, the Leafs are not benching William Nylander for a disciplinary reason in the playoffs. It's not happening. When has that ever happened? When has anyone on this team ever gotten benched for...
Especially a guy, one of those guys.
Exactly. Like,
all we've talked about is them catering to these guys.
It's not happening.
I actually didn't even see that. Maybe I need to get on X more.
Watch the videos. He's clearly favoring his like back. It looks like a back. It looks like a back injury. Yeah. That's what it looks like. Hopefully he's in the lineup for Game 3. We'll have to wait and see. But at the same time, like, you just said it about, that sports, you make decisions, you create narratives, and like the Leafs, with their just utter refusal to comment on it, have now let speculation run amok online. And that's another reason why I think it was important for them to get the win tonight. It's like, can we stop talking about what's going on with William Nylander? It's turned into a bit of a sideshow over the last 3 days.
Well, you can look at it one of two ways. One, it's... like, I find it personally, I'm already sick of it. It's like every time I turn on 590, anytime I am on any sort of news platform that is talking about the Leafs, it's all William Nylander. And it's just like, I really just, like, I would like to know what's wrong with him personally, because I think it's just odd how he was just healthy all year and then all of a sudden he's just gone. But you could also look at it in the other sense where that is all everyone is talking about. So it kind of shields your other guys from facing as much criticism as they would normally get, because we're just too focused on being detectives on what's wrong with William Nylander. And I don't know if that's the angle they're trying to take, but it's also another way you could look at it, that maybe Matthews, Marner, and Tavares face a little less criticism because everyone's too busy with their binoculars out at practice trying to figure out what's wrong with Nylander.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, that's another reason why I'm happy they got the win tonight. So hopefully we can move on from this, and we'll wait and see if he plays in Game 3.
I'm happy they got the win tonight because now I can watch Game 3 with just this tiniest sliver of hope. It's just so...
you're the one that's saying they can beat this team.
I know.
That was your narrative from the start.
Well, it's just... we kind of sound stupid. It's like we go from spazzing one day... and then they go out and win, and it's like we're almost having a hard time, like, mustering up these, like, positive takes of, I don't know. Like, it's hard to switch from, there's so many deep-rooted feelings you have about this roster.
No, listen, it's not that hard. It's not that hard. Listen, Auston Matthews was one of their better players tonight and got the game-winning goal. John Tavares played well and scored when he had a good opportunity. The defense is an absolute fire drill, but they managed to be more efficient as the game went on and allow Samsonov to make the saves, and Samsonov made the saves. That's it. They can beat this team. Don't beat yourselves. Yeah. The margin for error is small, like we said. Defensemen, none of you, 2 of you can handle a fucking puck. 1 of you can handle a puck. I don't know what the hell's going on with Morgan Riley. I think Like, I wouldn't be surprised if in a little bit here we find out he's dealing with an injury of some kind. Like, he is, I don't know what is going on with him. None of you can handle a puck, so just quick, efficient plays. Forwards, get back, help your D-men out, no blowing the zone, no cheating for offense, and that's how you're going to win. Don't beat yourselves. Don't be stupid. Don't take the bait. It's that simple. It's that simple.
You're right. If you really dissect it, they finally got a power play goal. Auston Matthews finally scored. Tavares scored. Domi, who was a guy who was supposed to contribute in the playoffs, scored. Samsonov made a huge save on a rebound. Like, he made a couple other big saves. So you get a save, you score a power play goal.
Fourth line was great.
And your top player scores a clutch goal. Like, that's a recipe for success in the postseason, if you ask me.
I didn't want to leave without touching on this. There were a lot of people online who were mad at Mitch Marner tonight. And there were a lot of videos circulating of him being soft. There's one going around Twitter where it's like he goes in to chase a puck on the boards, and it's like he just...
Instead of being on the inside, he goes to the outside.
And it doesn't take the body at all. And there are a lot of people pointing the finger at him on the Pasternak goal. And this whole Mitch Marner in the playoffs thing has taken on a life of its own. But at the same time, it's like the proof is in the pudding a little bit. Like the guy does not like... Listen, we're not going to come on here and personally attack the guy. I think a lot of times when people go after someone on social media, it gets personal and it gets whatever. And it's like, it's not personal. Mitch Marner's a great hockey player. There's something about playoff hockey and the intensity and physicality of it and I don't think he likes it. I just don't think he likes it. And I think I've said this about Mitch Marner forever. If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. He wants to play a certain style in a certain way, and if he can't play that way, he's completely ineffective. And when he's not able to take the puck and be creative and do really creative between the legs, behind the back passes, or take it around the net and feather a perfect sauce to Auston Matthews, then he doesn't know what to do. And when you're in the playoffs, there's no time and space. Your opponent's trying to take your head off. And listen, I don't think it's an insult. I'm not trying to sit here and say anything personal about the guy, but it's very clear when you watch him, he is uncomfortable out there.
Yeah, it's just like, it would be so much easier if he just found a way to be the offensive Mitch that he's supposed to be in the playoffs. Like, there's a reason why Mitch Marner hasn't gotten rocked or hasn't been injured from a big hit. Like, remember when Robertson just got absolutely rocked and he separated his shoulder, and Ny's a big guy, he can handle it. There's a reason why Mitch Marner's a smart hockey player who stays away from injury because of stuff like that. He's always aware of who's around him on the ice, and I kind of respect that in a way, but sometimes you gotta take that hit to make a play.
In the playoffs, you're not going to be able to be effective. This is the rant I went on 2 weeks ago where everyone in the comments called me a nutcase. It's like the space that you're craving to create isn't available. It's available on a Tuesday night in February. It's not available right now. So you have to be willing to take a hit to make a play. You have to be willing to get in there and get your hands dirty and get your nose dirty. And he just really, really, really doesn't want to do it. Like, you look at that line tonight, he was the worst player on that line. Nylanders and Tavares had a pretty good night, and he was not really effective.
Yeah, he's got a...
And the only time you notice him is like in a power play opportunity when he has the puck. Why? Because the Bruins are shorthanded and he's got time and space. But in just a regular shift where it's 5-on-5, he's really... I don't know, man. It's a huge... We're not getting into this because we got a lot of time to talk about this, but like, if this guy is going to come to the table in the offseason and he's going to say, I'm a $12+ million hockey player and this is how he performs in the biggest game, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. His last contract negotiation did not go well from a PR perspective. People were very mad at him and thought that he took the team for every last dollar. And if this is the way he's going to play in the playoffs and then demand that type of payday, it's not going to go well for him again.
I just don't understand how you can demand that. Like, it's just like what you're supposed to do, you're not even doing in the playoffs. It's like you're like, you shy away from physicality. You have a hard time creating when the game gets tighter, but that's what you get paid to do. You're supposed to be that good of a hockey player, and I believe that he does have the skill set to do that. He just doesn't. He just hasn't broken through.
Well,
like, score a big goal.
You know what,
like,
though?
You know what? Take the monkey off that guy's back, going out and scoring 2 goals or just dominating offensively, getting the puck on the power play, finding guys, making plays, but he doesn't do that. So when you roll that clip of him avoiding a hit, it's just like it makes it worse because he's not contributing anything on the side that he's supposed to be contributing on.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Like, there's all this sort of negativity towards Mitch Marner. He goes out in game 3, has a big game, pots one, sets up another one, looks like the player that we all know he's super capable of being. Everyone forgets about it. All it takes is one great performance, and people will forget about it and change the narrative on you. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
Game 3 goes Wednesday. We will be back after that. We're headed back to Toronto now. I really hope, I know it's to a certain extent, it's so corporate in there. The Scotiabank Arena has always been better in the playoffs than it has been in the regular season. But man, you watch the barn in Winnipeg last night. Oh my God, it's electric in there. It's electric. In Vancouver, it's like, let's get some real fans in there and make this barn a tough place to play in. I really hope so.
We'll hold my breath.
Yeah, I won't hold my breath on that either. But
it's always it's a little bit. It's not. I don't think it's a morgue in there in the playoffs. But it'd be nice if it was like if people were actually felt the pressure of playing in that arena, which I think nobody feels the pressure of playing in that arena.
We were at Game 3 in the last Leafs Bruins series, and it was definitely the best atmosphere I've ever been a part of inside that building. We will be back after Game 3. Listen, we said going into this, if they could get out of Boston tied at 1, that's as good as you could ask, and that's where they are. Coming back for Game 3, Bruins are going to be ready. Leafs have been a different team at home this year. Hopefully that changes. All new season in the playoffs. We'll be back immediately after the game. That's the 3rd time I've said that in the last 10 seconds. If you'd like to come along on this journey with us, hit the like and subscribe button below.
Spread the word. Tell your friends.
We've got a ton of great engagement in the comments. Our comment section it's hard to beat our comment section on YouTube. I gotta say, like, we get so many awesome comments. We really, really appreciate it. Had some great thumbs up and reviews for the audio. People are listening.
Yeah.
If you're listening to the audio version, give us a 5-star review. Help us out in the algorithm. Getting those audio numbers up is a personal goal of mine if you haven't noticed. We'll see you guys after Game 3.